Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? It's Matt here for YoVideogames, and today I'm going to talk about something completely different. Now, I know this channel is called YoVideogames, but we all admit we love things besides just video games in our lives. There's lots of other parts of the fandom that we all gravitate towards and latch onto. Now, that being said, that's going to make this video a little tricky to do thanks to the US copyright laws being a total fucking clusterfuck. So what that basically means is I'm going to have to be creative with the videos and music I show, which will have to remain video game centric, but hopefully I can use this for a little tongue-in-cheek comedy as well. So with that being said, let's get down to the 5 biggest non-video game news stories of 2014. Number 5. Fox releases smart summer blockbusters. Yeah, there's gonna be a shit ton of big movies coming out in 2015 from all kinds of nostalgic movies of the past. However, 2014 was very surprising for both me and Max, as we saw a good number of really smart, awesome films that were either produced or distributed in some way by Fox. First was X-Men Days of Future Past, which was fantastic, even for someone like me who didn't even finish First Class. This movie finally showed me the X-Men film I've been waiting for since X-Men 2 came out. We got Sentinel battles, we got mutant concentration camps, we got time travel mechanics. It was fucking everything I've been waiting for. And much to my delight, the acting and script was really good. It may not have been the most bombastic X-Men movie ever, but it focused on what mattered most, and that was the characters, the relationships to one another, and a really crazy, awesome drama. Following that up, Fox distributed How to Train Your Dragon 2 from DreamWorks, which proved to be one of the best animated films to come out of the West in a very, very long time. I could go on and on about why this film is so well done, but let's just boil it down to a couple things. One, it's a sequel that treats the audience with respect to the first movie. It grows the characters up without having to rely on gags from the first film. And two, even though the romance between the main characters is set, I've never seen such a perfect reunion and romance between the characters' father and mother in this film. The reaction when Stoic finally meets his long-lost wife again is just perfect. It could have been done so many different ways and so many wrong ways, but this film just figured out how to do it right. That's what I love most about this film, is there's so many chances you could see this going the wrong way, and it doesn't. So How to Train Your Dragon 2 is probably one of the best films released this year, period, let alone being one of the best animated films. And finally, they released Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now everyone was kind of surprised how well the previous movie turned out, especially with James Franco and all. But Dawn of the Planet of the Apes took it to another level. This was superb science fiction. This had characters that were truly three-dimensional on either side of the conflict, and you totally understood everyone's motivations, even if you didn't agree with it. This is one of the smartest and best science fiction movies to come out in some time, and I really hope everyone gets a chance to see it at some point, even if you're not quite sold on the idea. Number 4. Somehow, Seth Rogen and James Franco became poster boys for freedom of speech. Yeah, I'm talking about the interview and the Sony hacks that happened. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth as to who did it and why it was done exactly, but I don't want to get too much into that political debate. What's really just funny is that this was a comedy that's probably pretty lowbrow, wasn't going to set a new standard, wasn't going to shock the world had it just been released as planned. It's basically just an okay comedy. But somehow it became the center of a huge brouhaha that led to tons of stuff being leaked internally from Sony Pictures Entertainment. However, for me, it was extremely unshocking. None of it really surprised me in all of the scandalous leaks and emails that got released. Newsflash, executives are money-grubbing assholes. Nothing really new or fancy for me. The only thing that was pretty cool about it is that it hinted that we may just get Spider-Man to cross over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, it seemed like the deal is off the table, according to the leaked emails, but there's been plenty of talk about renegotiating that tantalizing possibility, and I think a lot of fans would like it, and it's something that's bothered me for a long time. I really think these movie studios need to get the fuck over themselves and do what everyone wants. Cross over these Marvel characters. We want to see them together. Shit, get it going, guys. Number 3. Studio Ghibli closes production studio. This one hit me pretty hard. Now, a lot of people were like, Ghibli's not dead, Ghibli's not closed. And while that's sort of true, there are no films currently in production. And the reason for this is because their last 2 films kind of flopped. When Marnie Was There and The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter's Daughter really underperformed. And Ghibli's kind of always operated on this very dangerous, they kind of survived by the box office revenue of the last film they released. So when they had 2 flops in a row, that kind of crippled their finances a bit. So now they have no films in production. Now, why this is significant, this is the first time they've ever had to completely shut down their production studio and not have any films currently in production. Now, they are still selling merchandise for their films, and they do retain the rights to their films, so they'll continue to exist in one form or another for probably a very long time. However, it's getting more and more likely that Studio Ghibli just isn't going to make any more movies, and that is a huge loss for anyone who's a fan of animation or filmmaking in general. Number 2, Ralph Breer passes away. Now, this may be a man whose name you may not be familiar with, but it's someone who's probably affected every single person who watches this video's life in some way. Ralph Breer was the grandfather of the video game industry. He created table tennis in the late 60s. Now, what do I mean when you say he created table tennis? He created a video table tennis by looking at televisions and thinking, what if I can make a game out of using the knobs? You see, a long time ago, TVs had these turn-dial knobs to change the channels, and there was only generally about 13 channels. Ralph was an electronic engineering genius and looked at those knobs and said, wonder if I can make something work out of it as a game. And he created what was later taken and used to create Pong in the late 60s. He didn't stick around in the video game industry too much afterwards. He was mostly responsible for creating the Magnavox Odyssey and the Odyssey 2, but he later on in the late 80s and 90s went on and created other electronic toys, such as the Simon electronic toy. He was rather old though, and he was pushing into his 90s, so it's not too shocking that he passed away. It just is really sad. The reason I don't put this at number 1 is that I don't really feel like we should make a big note of when a person passes away. I think what's more important is to celebrate their life and think about all the accomplishments they made when they were alive and in the past. I think it's better to celebrate what he created and when he created it and why he was so important, rather than to focus on the time that he passed away. I'll always remember Ralph Breer, and I hope you guys will too. And the number 1 non-gaming news story to come out this year in 2014 was The Legend of Korra makes television history with this first gay couple. This was a big one. For a lot of people, it kind of just passed under their radar, and some people don't see the importance of it. But there's something I think a lot of people need to understand. In 100 years of film and 70 years of television, there has never been an on-screen gay couple in American animation. Now, I'm talking specifically about main characters, not side characters, not comedy relief characters. The main protagonists of a show. This is something that's hugely significant and has given a voice to people who have never had one before. Being gay is not something that you just choose. It's not some lifestyle choice. It's something you are born with, and this is something science has proven over and over again. And for far too long, people who are born gay have to basically put up with being silently outcast. They have to watch all of these animated shows, all of these animated movies, and never have someone who represents them. Never have they had a superhero that they can latch onto and say, yes, they're like me. It's one of the most damning things about our industry, and it's really incredible to see that it's actually starting to thaw. Some other people in the industry have commented on this, basically equating it to the moon landing, and it is kind of like the moon landing. It is one small step for us as a society that is growing up and realizing that not everyone in this world falls into the exact same style. I'm not a gay person myself, but for far too long have they gone without ever having any hero to champion them, or basically just say, hey look, not everyone falls into the heterosexual category. This was a hugely progressive move. No matter what you think about Mike and Brian and their show and their writing style, this was a gutsy move, and a move that needed to be taken. It is a little sad that it's taken so long to happen, but it's amazing and kind of cool that we're actually able to sit here today and say, we have seen right now when it first happened. We were there. So it's really cool. And these guys are kind of my personal heroes. This is something that needed to happen, and it's something to be celebrated, and I hope that it's just a first step and many steps to come. This was a huge event. Years down the road, people will forget exactly what movies were released in 2014. People will get over the Sony executives' emails getting released and all that. But something that can never be taken away now. Now we can look back and we can say, this was the moment, this was the time, this was the day when millions of people around the world suddenly were given a voice, suddenly were given a superhero, suddenly were given a chance to shine and be recognized and not silently ignored as they have been for far too long. This was television history. This was a significant step forward for people everywhere. And it's something that was so cool and so great to finally see. I hope people can look past however they feel personally about the show in general and see the important part of this and why this was so impactful for so many people around the world. So that about wraps up my top 5 biggest news stories that happened in 2014 that were not gaming related. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll check you later on the channel. Later, dudes!